This episode is sponsored by Shutterstock.com. With over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off, head on over to Shutterstock.com and use offer code GAMEBREAKER7. This episode is also brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker.
Hello, Internet Magic Man here from FreetoPlay TV with another Dat game. This time we're taking a first look at Dragon's Prophet, the MMORPG currently in open beta, free to play, brought to you by the team over at Sony Online Entertainment and developed by Runewaker, the team behind Runes of Magic. As usual, we'll spend about 15 minutes or so in-game checking it out, giving you the scoop. If you want to play it, head on over to FreetoPlay TV, check out our review, and we provide buttons right there for you to download and take a peek at it. Right off the bat, character creation, you've got Oracle, Sorcerer, a Warrior, and an Archer. So 4 basic classes, really only 1 dedicated healing class. It's pretty basic right now as far as that goes, but when you get to higher levels there is some customization. We'll talk about that in a little bit. As far as getting your character created, whoa, shoulders buddy, back and forth. Faces and hairs are picked from a preset list. You do have the option to adjust different features. I wouldn't say that it's as custom. Yeah, buddy. The Fro from last week in Ion makes a return. That's 2 weeks in a row on that game. So we got some... Oh, what's up, Gimli? And, well, that's Legolas. I don't know who that one is. What's up, Squall? Alright, so you can pick a preset and then adjust some features like your skin color, eye color, hair color, things like that. There are sliders for your eyebrows, your mouth, your nose, all that usual stuff, too. On the whole scale of customization, it's unlikely you're going to run across a character that's the exact same build you are, and you have quite a bit of customizing that you can do. Not as much as Ion, but more so than some other titles. So, a nice balance there. I'm not going to pick armor colors. Here's your face and eyebrow sliders. So you've got a few options to go through. Now, I'm not going to make we'll make this character, but I'm not going to roll with this. I'm going to jump ahead to my Archer, who's around level 11-ish. That way, 10, 11-ish. That way you don't have to watch the tutorial. But I would recommend that you do check out the tutorial, as action combat in this game is a little different than maybe you're used to. So it's definitely worth checking out the tutorial to become comfortable with it. Right off the bat, the graphics, they're not going to blow anybody away, but they are decent. I wouldn't put them at the top tier, but they're certainly not going to make your eyes bleed. Overall, I think it's pretty comfortable and fits the theme. Now, if you've read anything about this game, you know the big drawing point is to be able to catch and train and ride and have a mount and have a combat partner with all these different dragons. There's over 300 dragons in the game that you have the opportunity to capture. If you look in the upper right corner, just under my health bars and action point bars, you see I've got a handful of dragons in my stable there, and I can call them at any given time. Now, each dragon does specialize in a certain thing. So some dragons can ride you around on ground, some can fly you, others are more adept at swimming, and just like they have those features, they also have independent skill features too. We'll get into that in a second because there is a benefit to catching multiple copies of the same dragon. When we get to the dragon's individual skills, I'll show you what I mean. Action combat, you can see here, there is no targeting circle. WASD moves my character, and the camera is fully locked to the mouse. No button pushing, just move the camera, and remove the mouse, and the camera is going to move as well, which makes for a unique combat style. Yes, it's similar to action games that you've played, but it does require a little bit of working with before you're pretty adept at it. When you get new skills, it is actually pretty exciting to get a new skill, because you read the tooltip to get an idea of what it does, but you still have to play with it to get the ranges right and things like that. And if you aim off to the side by just a hair, you're going to miss your target totally. Their total movement while you're doing your combat, and even some abilities that rely on you double jumping in the air and then pressing a corresponding key to do a strike just like that. Very slick combat. Actually, overall, I do really enjoy the combat in Dragon's Prophet. The whole gotta catch them all with the dragons thing really doesn't appeal to me. And if it doesn't appeal to you, does that mean you should avoid the game? I would actually say no. Check it out. It is worth at least a look so that you can play with the combat a little bit and find out exactly how in-depth it is. As you level, you're given attribute points that you can put into different specs. It's totally free choices. If you're an archer and you want dexterity, go ahead and dump the points in dexterity. Your dragons level up with you too and can learn other abilities. That's where the training comes in. Now, each dragon only can stay out for a certain amount of time depending on their stats as you've leveled, and there's a cooldown once they disappear. So you'll see my dragon here will despawn after a little while. Not a huge deal for me because I do have a handful of dragons. I paid some leftover station coin I had from PlanetSide 2 and bought a couple extra dragon slots. If you're into the collecting, you're probably going to have to spend some money on here on both dragon slots in your stable and dragon's lairs so that you can store the tons and tons of dragons that you're going to be hunting and gathering and everything. I do like how there's like that motion blur effect too. A lot of people don't like that. I kind of leave that on in this game. Warframe, it's a bit much for me, but in this game I kind of dig it. Ping, ping, ping. Let's try and capture this one for you. So the mini game on the side you see is the capture. What's happening is the skull is moving in multiple directions according to the way the dragon's bucking to try and get me away. Using W, A, S, and D, I'm trying to keep that skull as close to the middle of the target as I can. If I keep it closer, the red meter fills up faster. If I fill the red meter before the yellow meter on the left drains, I capture it. If the yellow meter drains first, I don't capture it, and the dragon's going to beat the snot out of me. So I've got to take him down or try to capture him again, but that's unlikely. While the mini-game is one of those things that once you've done 2 or 3 times, you pretty much have a mastery of it, it's not to the point that once you've mastered it, you can go and capture the most powerful dragon in the land. Because it's still, those meters are dependent on your stats here, particularly your charisma, and the dragon stats as well. So stats do play into it. Now, as you'll see here, let's take a look at the dragon stable. Initially, you only have 2 slots here. Like I said, I did pay to open up 6. And these are your dragon's lairs. I'm not there yet as far as my leveling. Now, you will notice here, and I mentioned this earlier, that I do have a couple copies of the same dragon, particularly the Ash Rock Paragon dragon. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because just because they're the same type of dragon doesn't mean they have the same abilities, right? Some can fly, some can swim, but when you catch 2 of the same type, you can even compare their skills. Let's take a look at what I mean here. You'll see that this Ash Dragon does not have that purple ability that this one does, the Icing Claw. It's a more rare ability. I didn't train this on this particular dragon. I caught this one and he already had it. So there is a benefit to catching multiples of the same type of dragon and then comparing their abilities. They're actually talking about adding a feature later where you can pit 2 of your dragons against each other to fight, and they'll learn skills off of each other that way. Now, that's not fully implemented, just like PvP isn't really fully implemented yet either. Again, the game's still in open beta, so when you head on over to FreetoPlay.tv and look at our review, that's obviously subject to change as the open beta progresses. Now, your bag slots, and this is kind of where I start to get a little frustrated with Sony Online Entertainment's cash shop for this particular game. Once you change to this mouse mode, it's usually you're only 2 or 3 clicks away from the game telling you you need to buy something. These dragon shards that are in my bag right now are actually your gems for your equipment. So in this case, I'm going to pull out my bow, and we'll take a shard and socket it. No big deal. You guys have done this before in tons and tons of MMORPGs. Nothing really hunter or archer-like, so We'll just grab any one here. And yes, of course, when I take it out, it'll cost me. But look at what happens here. This is a very, very low-level bow, and I have the option to use station coins and to open up more sockets. Okay, fine. Fine. Higher gear obviously already has more sockets, so it's not pay to win, but it is some pretty fast progression. When you click through your menus, though, there's all kinds of those little things. Let's take a look here. We'll go down to Personal Auction House. Boom, 45 station coins, and it's a rental for a day type thing. And these are all over the place. Even your bag itself, you will get one additional bag row at level 10 and one at level 20. So you do get 2 rows given to you just as you level. But the rest of the rows you do have to pay for. So the game's constantly reminding you of money that you should be giving them. And I'm totally fine with that, but the one thing that developers got to eat, I get it. And it's not stopping me from enjoying the game. But if you're the collector type that's going to have to capture every dragon, pretty much it's a non-negotiable that at some point you're going to spend money on dragon stables and dragon's lairs. You're just going to need the space if you intend to capture them all. There's also world dragons, too, huge guys that you'll be able to capture, but they're on a longer spawn timer. Now, the reason I'm not showing you PvP or instances, and there are instances in the game, they start you off very early capturing dragons and showing you little instances to fight big dragons at the end of them. They're great, a lot of fun, big dragons at the end. You could take a party in and scale the difficulty. The reason I'm not showing you PvP, though, is because it really isn't truly implemented yet. Let me show you this PvE aspect of the game, and I'll explain what's going on with PvP. Questing in Dragon's Prophet is very linear. It's exclamation point, question mark, bounce from hub to hub to hub to hub. But to break it up, you do have these public events. If you've played Guild Wars 2, you're already or Rift, you're obviously already familiar with this type of thing. So it is a nice way to break up the monotony of jumping from hub to hub to hub just to level. On the PvP side of things, I could flag PvP here, and I could duel other people as well. No big deal. Basic gameplay. As far as anything else, it's not implemented yet. Now, Sony Online Entertainment has talked about what they are planning to implement, and not being a PvP guy myself, I've got to tell you that it even interests me what they're doing, because they're combining player housing with PvP. Players will have their houses on their own little virtual islands, and those will be the actual battlegrounds for the PvP. Your guild... Check this out, one step further, your guild can take over citadels, and while your personal houses can't actually be destroyed in PvP, at least that's the plan so far, the citadels and things like that your guild takes over certainly can. When you have a citadel, you have the option to put tax rates and things like that in place to earn money for the guild. I just think it's a really cool way of integrating player housing into something more meaningful than a cosmetic item that you can go and mess around with. So I will be keeping my eye on that. On the PvE side, where I sit, they are going to be implementing raids, and raids are no 10 and 25 man affair in Dragon's Prophet. They're setting it up so that it's truly a guild event. Your entire guild goes in there, and your base guilds start at 50 players. So imagine 50 players and all of their dragons in one raid instance, and you've got quite an opportunity for some really cool stuff, or a complete disaster. We don't know. We're going to have to wait to see. They are hopefully implementing these within the coming months, so look for them, or at least testing for them, sometime in late July or in August. Now, I've been kind of haphazard going after targets here, so I'm probably going to pick... Well, I can kill the ghoul. Oh, but there's a knight that's tagging me from behind, so I'm going to die here, and again... The game is going to remind me, hey, it's free to play, could you give us some cash? You can pay station coin to resurrect right where you're at, or you can do it for free. It's just going to throw you back onto the closest spawn point that you've been to. All in all, there's something good here. And I waited to do the first look on this one because when the NDA dropped towards the end of the the end of the closed beta, I really wanted to do a DAT game for you, but it really wouldn't have been fair. The game just wasn't ready. There were placeholders and audio missing, and it just wasn't ready. It wouldn't have been fair. I'm glad I've waited. It's still an open beta. There's still bugs. I'm going to allocate some points because apparently I've been neglecting to do so. Or there was a reset since the last time I played. Now, like I said, there's still some bugs, there's still some audio clips, or you'll go to a cutscene and a sound effect might be missing, or you'll pick up a quest and there's a placeholder, but not nearly as many as there were about a month ago. So they are working at Runewaker to clear up some of these things. I hope that continues through the open beta. I'm glad I waited, because while the game may not be my favorite free-to-play game that's out there, there's definitely something good here, and I like the way that they're thinking about things for the future. See, now I'm at the cap on where this dragon can fly, but I can get it to clip up the barrel on the graphics there. This dragon can't go any higher, which means I probably just got myself stuck in this barrel. Perfect example. It's an open beta. There are odds and ends like this. I'm stuck in a big-ass wine barrel. Fantastic. I can't fly up high enough to graphics clip over the top. So there is some fun to be had here. But if you're in a collection, you're that collection type of guy or girl, then there's definitely some fun to be had here, despite its flaws, which hopefully a lot of them will be worked out. Not the greatest free-to-play game in the world, but I do think they are doing some fun things that are definitely worth checking out if you haven't played yet. Will you stay in it? That's going to depend on that whole collection aspect of things. But it's definitely worth checking out. Just play with the combat for a little bit. I'm sure you'll have some fun with that, even if you don't stay with the game. So, check out Dragon's Prophet, Sony Online Entertainment. Come on over to FreetoPlay.tv. We'll be putting our review up the same day that game goes up, so you'll get a chance to score the game yourself and leave your comments below our review so that you can help out fellow gamers. And I am definitely stuck in this barrel. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you click like, subscribe, and of course, come on over to FreetoPlay.tv. Follow us on the Twitters and the Facebooks. I need to figure out the /stuck command. Apparently it is not /stuck, because I'm stuck in the floating wine barrel in the sky. And unstuck didn't work. Die didn't work. Dear God, I need some spaces here. Dear God, help me. I'm trapped in a big-ass bucket. Nope, that's not the command there. I'm going to have to figure it out. No, really. It's probably station coin related, so maybe a /pay station coin. I don't know. We'll check it out later. Until next time, gang, this is Magic Man saying stay safe, and we'll see you out on the servers.